The Soul King's real name isn't a secret. Kubo already told you long before its actual reveal, and that's not even the wildest one. 21 secrets like this are hiding in Bleach. Let's dig in. In episode 394, Yuawak finally says it out loud. The Soul King's true name, Adneus. But here's the problem. Kubo already told you more than 20 episodes earlier, and he didn't even try to hide it well. Go back to episode 372 and look at Soken Ishida's old journal, the one covering Quincy history. The name is just sitting there, in the margins, like it's nothing. It's even hidden inside the Ausvalen incantation itself. Think about that for a second. Kubo planted it there and just let it sit, rotting in the background for years, waiting for someone to actually look. That's not an accident. That's the kind of patience most writers don't have. And this is only the warm-up. Because Kubo didn't just plant clues, he actively hid them. Inside Ichigo's inner world, Old Man Zangetsu introduces himself. He starts to say a name, and the speech bubble just gets covered by a solid black bar. For years, fans assumed it was just a style choice, but it wasn't. A fan later asked Kubo directly, was that black bar Ichibe's ink power hiding the name? Kubo's answer was 3 words. That is correct. Ichibe was reaching into Ichigo's own soul, censoring the villain's real name, before Ichigo ever knew who he really was. Because that old man guiding Ichigo through his power wasn't really Zangetsu, but a fragment of Yuawak himself, and he was about to say so, out loud, to Ichigo's face. But here's the part people get backwards. Ichibe wasn't protecting Yuawak's secret, he was destroying it. If that introduction had gone through, Ichigo might have known from day one exactly what kind of power was living inside him. Instead, Ichibe erased it, and that single black bar might be the reason Ichigo became strong enough to beat Yuawak at all. Speaking of Yuawak, his name carries a meaning most people scroll right past. It's the name of God. Sounds like a stretch, but it isn't. Yuawak points straight at the Tetragrammaton, the 4 Hebrew letters that spell out the name of God in the Torah. And when Nehemiah talks about him, he doesn't even use the full name. He just says YH, short for Yod, and He, the first 2 letters. Kubo named the final villain of Bleach after the actual biblical god, then had a side character casually shorten it to his initials. And this is where it gets interesting. Long before anyone sees Shinji's Shikai, he's already telling you what it does. In one early scene, he writes his own name backwards on the classroom board. Later, he's drawn standing upside down, just outside the school. Everyone reads it as Shinji being a weird guy, but it wasn't a joke, it was foreshadowing. His Zanpakuto, Sakanade, flips everything. Left becomes right, up becomes down. Your sense of ally and enemy gets scrambled. He showed you his entire power in a doodle, and everyone filed it under quirky. That's what Kubo hid in the artwork. But some secrets weren't hidden in a drawing. They were hidden inside the story itself, where even the characters couldn't see them. Here's one you'd need to pause to catch. In the quiet scenes, when Ichigo's just lying in his room, look at his bed. The sheets carry a faint Quincy cross pattern. This is long before anyone knows Ichigo has Quincy blood. And here's the part that gets me. Who made that bed? His mother, Masaki. The Quincy. She stitched his heritage into the room he slept in, and it sat there, in the background, for hundreds of chapters. You know Ichigo's substitute badge, the skull-shaped thing that lets him leave his body. On the walk home from Soul Society, Ishida says something feels off about it. Everyone brushes him off, but he was right to be suspicious, because the badge starts acting strange. Ichigo trash talks someone in front of it, and his Soul Reaper backup shows up, repeating his exact words. Eventually, Ginjo drops the truth, and it's worse than anyone assumed. That thing was never just a badge. It was built to watch him and keep him on a leash. Soul Society was spying on Ichigo through a plastic skull the whole time. This one flips a whole character on their head. In Kenpachi's flashback, he asks the little girl who she is. She doesn't answer with a name. Instead, she just points at his sword. Everyone read that as her admiring the blood on the blade. But that wasn't it at all. She was his Bankai. Yachiru was the spirit of his Zanpakuto, walking beside him all along, and he never realized it. She even complained once that Ichigo's fight was unfair, 2 against 1, since Ichigo had Zangetsu helping him. She was hinting at exactly what she was, and Kenpachi never heard a word of it. Since we're on Kenpachi, his eye patch is alive, built by the 12th Division, lined with tiny creature mouths, and its entire job is to eat his spiritual power, on purpose. He doesn't wear it over an injury, he wears it so his own strength gets drained down, to a level where fights actually last more than 4 seconds. The man handicaps himself with a living parasite, because he's bored. That's peak Kenpachi behavior. During the Hueco Mundo Naruto arc, Aizen has an elite cleanup crew called the Exequias. These guys fought Ichigo and Rukia head-on without blinking. When their leader, Rudborn, takes one look at Unohana, who hasn't even drawn her sword, he orders his whole squad to retreat. Think about that. Soldiers who didn't flinch against Ichigo and Rukia, running from someone who never even reached for her blade, because they could sense something the audience couldn't. Unohana was the first Kenpachi, the most bloodthirsty fighter Soul Society ever produced. The scene told you who she really was, years before the show ever admitted it. So far, every secret we've found was hidden in an image or a scene, but some secrets aren't hidden in a drawing. They're hidden in a single sentence. When Byakuya comes to drag Rukia back to Soul Society, he says one cold little line, the kind that sounds like nothing at all in the moment. He says he understands why she would protect someone who reminds her of a person she once looked up to. On the surface, he's talking about Ichigo and how Ichigo reminds Rukia of Kaien, but he's also describing himself. Because Byakuya adopted Rukia in the first place for the exact same reason, she looked almost exactly like his dying wife, Hisana. In one throwaway sentence, the most closed-off character in the entire series quietly narrated his own tragic backstory, and you weren't meant to catch it until much later. He's not the only one who did that either. Back in chapter 178, Aizen says something strange. He says no one has ever truly stood at the top of the world. Not you, not I, not even the gods. And while he says it, he's staring right at Ukitake. A fan later asked Kubo directly, did that "you" mean something? Did it mean Ukitake had some secret link to the Soul King? Kubo's answer was one word. Yes, Ukitake was secretly hosting Mimi Hagi, the right arm of the Soul King. And Aizen already knew. He was throwing shade at a man carrying a piece of God inside his own body, hundreds of chapters before that reveal ever landed. Not every secret in this story is that heavy. You know how big a deal it is when we learn Ichigo's dad, Ishin, used to be a Soul Reaper captain under the name Shiba. Huge reveal, right? Except two people already knew. A fan asked Kubo directly, did Hitsugaya and Matsumoto figure it out while they were staying near the Kurosaki house? Kubo's answer was short. Both of them noticed. Two captains clocked that Ichigo's goofy dad was one of their own kind and said absolutely nothing. They just let it ride. Imagine holding that in and keeping a straight face. At the dinner table, Kubo didn't just hide lines. He hid entire systems. Every division in the Gotei 13 has its own flower emblem with a motto attached. And once you read the mottos, they double as character summaries. Squad 3's flower means despair, which is Gin and Kira. Squad 9's means oblivion and is led by Blind Tosin. Squad 11's simply means fight. Squad 12's stands for vengeance and independence, which is Mayuri in a single word. Keep this flower system in your head, because it sets up the next one perfectly. In the 1000-year Blood War openings, every captain gets represented by their division's flower. Unohana's is the bellflower. In the first opening, it's just there, pretty and easy to miss. But then the second opening does something different. Watch Kenpachi. He's shown holding a bouquet of bellflowers, and one by one, he drops them into a river. Unohana's flower in Kenpachi's hands, being let go. The opening spoiled her death, and the fact that Kenpachi would inherit her role, and it did it in flowers before the arc even got there. Before we continue, quick shout out to Sadie for subscribing. If you want to be next, subscribe and comment, I subbed. Alright, back to the video. Not every secret in Bleach is about the plot. Some of them are about Kubo himself. The Espada names sound like made-up demon words. They're not. Almost all of them are lifted from real architects and furniture designers, confirmed by Kubo himself in the Masked Character book. Ulquiorra comes from the architect Patricia Urquiola. Grimjow is a mix of architect Nicholas Grimshaw and the watch brand Jaeger LeCoultre. Coyote Stark is named after the designer Philippe Stark. Aizen's top tier of monsters is quietly a tribute to people who design very nice chairs. Somehow, it still sounds terrifying. The Fullbringers pull the same trick, with a different theme. Some of the Fullbring abilities are named after Western rock records. Ruruka's Dollhouse and Love Gun are both real records. Yukio's Invaders Must Die comes from a 2009 Prodigy album. Jiriko's Time Tells No Lies is a Praying Mantis song from 1981. Jackie's Dirty Boots is Sonic Youth 1991. Kubo basically walked you through his record collection and dared you to notice. Ichigo's name is a number, and it's hiding all over the show. Ichi means 1, go means 5. Put them together, and Ichigo reads as 15, exactly how old he is when the story starts. Check his bedroom door. There's a 15 on it. His birthday is July 15th. The main character has been wearing his own age as a name tag this whole time. Here's a nerdy one that blew my mind. When Kubo tells the turn back the pendulum flashback, set 100 years before the main story, he numbers those chapters backwards, running from chapter -108 to -100. Hitsugaya's special flashback chapter is literally chapter -15. There's even a chapter numbered .8, and 2 more, called Zero Side A and Zero Side B. He built an actual timeline coordinate system for his own manga with a 0 point and everything. Most readers never even noticed the numbers were going below 0. That's what Kubo hid in the details. But some of the biggest secrets aren't hidden inside Bleach at all. They're hidden in the Bleach that never happened. Almost nobody has read the original Bleach pilot, and it's a wildly different story. In that first version, Ichigo has black hair on the cover. Rukia is in the 3rd division and physically shrinks after lending him her power. Souls get handed tickets instead of a proper soul burial. Hollows have no masks. And the Kurosaki family runs a funeral home instead of a clinic. Orihime is already dead in it. Ichigo gets sent to collect her spirit, and she ends up sacrificing herself on his blade to destroy her own hollow-fied father. The Bleach you love was one draft away from being a much darker, much sadder story. But it gets weirder, because Bleach was almost never a sword series at all. Kubo's original concept was a gun manga called Snipe. Rukia was the main character. Everyone ran around with firearms, and Rukia herself fought with a scythe. When the guns turned into swords, the name Snipe stopped fitting, and it got dropped. If you want proof, scythe-wielding Rukia actually shows up. As a nod, in the film Fade to Black, a whole alternate Bleach with guns exists in Kubo's drafts, and we got samurai ghosts instead. To close this out, the biggest hidden detail was sitting in the setting the whole time. Karakura Town, where Ichigo lives, is written using kanji that literally mean empty seat town. Sit with that for a second, because the entire series is one long fight over an empty throne. Aizen's whole plan runs on the idea that the seat of heaven is vacant and someone deserving should take it. The Soul King is barely holding reality together on a chair nobody is truly fit to sit in, and Kubo named the ordinary little town empty seat right there on the map. The theme of the whole show was sitting in the address from the very beginning. Which one of these got you the worst? Was it the Yachiru Bankai reveal, the bellflowers, or the fact that Kubo hid the villain's own name for literal years? Drop it in the comments. And if this made you want to rewatch the whole thing with fresh eyes, do the bare minimum and tap subscribe. Otherwise, Aizen was right about you all along. Still hungry? Click the video on screen. There's more where that came from.